First things we did was hired Ohio Painting Company to come in here and paint, and the time that saved us was incredibly valuable.
We were constantly so impressed at the character of the people they brought out. I mean, they deliver such an incredible product and do things with excellence, and that is very important.
The Ohio Painting Company podcast on location, a brand new version of the Ohio Painting Company podcast because we're on location and we're going to be out at a spot where you guys have physically put the brush to the wall. So where are we?
We're at Shoppe Smitten, Oakwood, Ohio, and this is owned and it's created by our good friends Leslie and Todd Moss, and it has become a staple in the Dayton area. They've moved up through Springboro and had locations throughout, and they have strong prominence in the fashion industry and the boutique market. And they've become great friends and execute a wonderful not only business but image and help in the community. And so when we were invited to come up here and take a look at, we've handled several projects, but this being a location that they knew that they wanted to open and grow for the long haul, and we were part of it. Just it's hard not to feel honored to be part of that and a part of their vision. Something that really is it's strong. It's hard to create a brand. It's hard to do these things, and talking with them and speaking about friendships. Friendship should be forming and honing, and so as they grow and continue to go through these things, it's funny how Ohio Painting, we talked about faking it till you make it. I mean, there's an aspect of that, and it kind of dumbs it down, but what you go through every day in business and building and how to stay consistent, even upstairs. I mean, you have your days of doubts and stuff. So wonderful friends and great opportunities to do what we do best for them. Sure. And so we'll talk about that more.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. And, obviously gracious enough to have us come in here.
Yeah, on their day that they're closed. Yeah, it's like, hey, you got the day off, but no, we're going to come invade your territory.
Exactly. So we definitely appreciate that. And we're going to have those owners on here in just a little while to speak a little bit more about the decision making, how stuff like this gets started, how a vision can turn into a reality, which is what we're sitting in right now. So I love that feel and I love that aspect, and I love the success story of businesses just like this. So, you look around the room here, and we'll talk more about this with the owners, but where is the Ohio Painting Company in here?
Well, we are on the walls, the trim. We're basically...
ceiling?
Everything you see in here aside from one corner. Todd... helps Leslie execute her vision, and so they've got a corner that we'll still see, but that's a newer bar. But the inside, what you see, what helps showcase everything that they sell, and then the outside, the entrance here as well, and so that's what we've done here on this location.
Very cool. Kevin, was this in your wheelhouse, this particular project? Did this one maybe lean on Nick a little bit heavier than you? How did it go with this particular job?
I think I walked in here one time to order pizza for the guys. It was a mess. Paper was down, and
to be expected, though.
Oh yeah. But they were going to town, and it. Oakwood is such a great community, and to be able to put a store like this in Oakwood, there has to be a sense of pride for sure. So we're really excited that she's let us come in and do the painting. But yeah, our guys took control, and we just let them do their thing with, of course, the execution of what they wanted.
I say we get Leslie and Todd in the seat. I want to thank you guys for coming on. We'll obviously chat with you soon, but in this new, trying it out version of the Ohio Painting Company podcast, we're going to actually talk with customers. So we're going to get to that with Leslie and Todd. Appreciate you guys again.
Awesome.
And we'll talk soon.
Cool.
Todd and Leslie Moss now with us from Shoppe Smitten. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And with a shop like this, I have questions that could go all over the place.
Okay.
But, you know, the basic question, how does something like this start? How do you get a vision like this? So let's go back. How many years are we going back? First off,
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, what was the first maybe text message, email to him or him to you saying, I want to start something,
Yeah.
and this is how I want it to go?
Really, it more so just evolved. So as mentioned before, we were previously in Springboro, and I was a full-time photographer. I had a studio there, and I specialized with photos for high school seniors. So as I have these young girls coming in and seeing a need in the community for a boutique, I'm like, I'm going to start selling accessories and just little items that they can wear in their photos. And little by little, I'm like, let's add, you know, clothing. And Todd's like, sure, sounds good, let's do it. I'm like, no, it's like it's a whole other animal, another ball game. But there was only one other boutique in the town at the time, and it was just not for our demographic, I'll say that. So just introduced it, and I literally had the most limited hours ever, but what I was bringing in was selling, and it just it quickly grew. And then we realized this is a whole other business. We need to separate this. And then 8 years later, within a few years later, I just went full time with this business and wasn't trying to do both photography and the shop. It just became its own thing. So.
Now, I talk with Kevin and Nick all the time on the show about business as a whole, but how fast does 8 years go?
Oh, quickly.
Yeah.
And then you add a pandemic in there, and it's interesting because there's seasons where you're just like, oh my gosh, like sometimes it feels slow, but usually it's just, especially having a very seasonal business, as far as my inventory, it just flies, where you're always having to be planning for the next thing and thinking of the next season. So,
right.
But yeah, it flew by.
Sure. Well, Todd, I want to discuss with you those first steps. I mean, what do you do? Do you immediately start looking for a location? Do you immediately start looking for vendors? What's the first step?
Well, the good thing was the first step for her, she already had a space, so that was convenient. But it was taking that space that was meant for photos and just a meeting space for her clients and building clothing racks and redoing the floors and making it more presentable to feel more like a retail space. So that's kind of been the progression, where, you know, she started at her original location, and then we moved up the road, and then we moved across the street, and then eventually moved to Oakwood. So it's just been coming in and refreshing these spaces to make it fit the aesthetic that she wants. And that's, you know, where Ohio Painting Companies come in, because they've touched just about every single location that we've had. So they've been a part of this from almost the beginning.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And he's at the mercy of my my visions, I guess. I always have ideas for the next thing, the next opportunity, the next location, and things like that. So usually it's
How
more.
quick do they come around, though? The new vision.
I've always got something brewing, and just different ways I want to make the store either grow or do things with more excellence, or update this or that. Even in here, there's a dozen projects. I'm like, when are we going to add that, those lighting, that lighting, or, add a paint color somewhere else, or, build a new table, whatever it is. There's always just something.
It's, to answer your question, it's daily. Daily.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, and trends change as quickly as clothing fashion trends.
Yeah, and sometimes it's opportunities that I'll just use Springboro for example. We were in that how would you describe it? Like our main location. After we moved out of the photography studio, we moved up the street. We were there for 6 or 7 years in this one. That was like the spot we were known for in town. But there was an eyesore of a building directly across the street, and it sat vacant the whole time we were there. And we would just stare at it, and you would hear people walk by and be like, it's really just a shame that something doesn't go in there. There's just people walking around town, and then there's this, I hate to call it a dump, but it was just
It was a dump.
Yeah, it was dumb.
Right there on Main Street. And then eventually hell froze over, and there was a for rent sign in the window, and I'm like, I just walked right across the street. And anyhow, so we opened up a second location right there on Main Street just for about 2 years until we moved here to Oakwood. But just to take something, even if it wasn't going to be ours long term, just to take something that grew our business at the time, but also really helped enhance the community. And I was willing to pay the money to have Ohio Painting Company come in and paint the building, just even if it wasn't going to be mine forever because I was a renter, but just to help, the street. What's the word I'm looking for? Just enhance the street, aesthetic of the street.
Yeah,
and,
the aesthetic, the curb
and
appeal.
the curb appeal,
Yeah.
property value, all that. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I mean, let's break it down. I mean, I want to get in detail, and we'll cut to B-roll and get closer to these things that you can talk about. But, I guess what's the latest? And then, no, let's not do that.
Okay.
Let's start with the first thing you did, and then we'll go to the latest. Or was it all done at once?
Ohio Painting's been out here twice. So when we got the Oakwood space, I mean, it's how many square feet?
Just under 4,000, I think. Is that
I don't know
right?
if it's
38?
that many. It's maybe you guys would remember. But anyway, I mean, it's a large space, and it was very dark in here. So, I mean, and I'm very much like a DIY person, but I'm like, this would take us weeks to do ourselves.
Yeah, there are things where, if we're at home and we want an accent wall painted in our half bath, that's something that we can knock out. But to come in here, I mean, it would have taken us days to do the drywall patching and a week and a half to do all the painting, which they came in and had it all done in 3 days.
Few days.
Right.
Yeah.
And done with such excellence
Yeah.
and precision, which is why I love the company so much.
Yeah, that was the first thing that we did.
Yeah, just to
This
brighten
first
it up.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks great in here. I've been talking to Nick over the course of, the last 10 episodes that we've done of this show. And in one of those, we were talking about trends, and he said 100% that white was big. It's clean. It brightens things up. It makes it look bigger. So is that kind of why you landed on this? I mean, you said it was a big space in the first place, but, it helps out even more.
Yeah, and just to help contrast against what we sell. I mean, even though white is the most basic color, for one, we wanted
White goes with everything.
yeah,
Right.
but we wanted it bright. We wanted to help bounce the natural light coming in as much as possible. But even at our own house, Ohio Painting Company painted the outside of the house white and has painted
Cabinets, couple of rooms,
white,
fireplace.
black and white, and then our living room. We've hired them so many times.
Right. Well, that's good stuff. Keep coming back.
Yeah.
And the process with the cabinets, I've seen that happen. It's pretty impressive.
Yes.
How they operate with all that, taking things back to the shop and bringing them on back, reinstallations and things like that. But as for Shoppe Smitten itself, when people want to find you on social media, they're going to see quite a bit that's going on.
Yep.
Like studio-wise, correct? Is that
Yes.
here somewhere?
It is not.
It's not?
No. Actually, so we use it. We might add that element to our basement because we've got the room down there. But we'd have to bring in all the lighting and things like that. So where Todd works, there is a studio there. So it's off-site. It's kind of a pain because once a week we're having to pack up all of our items and go do a photo shoot. But it's still worth it. That's something that I value, is having very professional quality photos. I used to do the photos. Now one of my managers takes them for us because she's also a photographer. But it's not here, unfortunately.
Okay,
But I do
understand.
love to prioritize great photos for our website and for our socials.
Right, yeah. I mean, and that, it's a must when, you're trying to jockey for position on the
yeah.
internet and show your products off,
Yeah,
things
and
like that.
If I go to a website and the first thing I see are stock photos,
And
I click out.
people in my industry, people 100% in your industry, we know immediately.
Oh yeah.
Stock
Yes.
video, stock pictures, you can tell.
I
it's not-
I know exactly what brand or what website they pulled that
Yeah.
picture from, and I'm
that mountain and waterfall is not in this area.
yeah.
It's easy to figure out. But yeah, but that's cool that you're still able to use your, old skills that you have gained in the past, photography, things like that. You're still able to, see that happen and bring people in, showcase these products that are here. Where do they come from, these products?
So I source them from different places. I do have a couple local artists. quite a few small business brands, and then other stuff is just general wholesale. So I do go to market once a year where I can it's a few days. I mean, it's the most overwhelming, incredible experience. Todd would absolutely hate it. It's just like shopping 24/7 for a week straight. But it makes such a difference to see the quality of things in person, especially picking out the gift items, to smell the candles and the perfumes and stuff, and to make sure like I'm just truly picking out the best. And our store motto's always been things we love and believe in. It's because I'm like, I'm not going to stock it if I don't love it or truly believe in this product or the artist who created it, or even just the way they went about creating their product.
And speaking of the artists themselves, talk about making their day, because sometimes a lot of these smaller companies, they don't have the opportunity to get in stores. And so when you're like, I want to sell that at my place, I mean, how good is that feeling?
Yeah.
To be able to say that to somebody.
Yeah. And a few of the local artists, I hear from them every time they stop in. They're taking pictures of their products on the shelves and seeing what's sold. It's incredible for them. I love to support them, especially knowing that they are doing the hard work, in their little art studios or in their basements, just putting their blood, sweat, and tears into their products. So I love that. Also, Todd and I travel every fall, and we go up north, and one of my favorite things is just to go to other small boutiques and businesses, and that's just another way that I find more unique products. Like there's a brand of it's not local to us, but it's handmade soaps. It's up in Michigan. It was just this little independent place we stumbled into, and I'm like, I love everything she makes. I want to sell it in my store. And I never would have found her, and she never would have had an Ohio presence, had I not just walked in and said, do you offer wholesale? After the fact, I'm like, I need to have this in my store. So
That's awesome.
like, I love doing that.
That's awesome. Well, always great stuff. It's so good to be able to hear small businesses helping other small businesses.
Absolutely.
And so let's talk a little aspiration toward the future. Do you plan on making it bigger than it is? Are you comfortable with where you are?
The next thing, I used to be more about growing in different. I always wanted like bigger store. When I have a big store, I don't want to be any bigger. Or I wanted other locations. Now I just want to grow our online presence is the biggest thing. Especially mentioning the photo shoots we do every week. I'm like, we put such excellence into photographing our product. I just want to be selling more of that product. And so, say I'm selling 6 of every shirt, I would love to sell 12 to 18 or more.
Right.
You know what I mean? So putting in the same work, but just higher volume.
Gotcha.
So.
And Todd, are you ready for the next demand, the next crack of the whip, the next pot of paint?
Yeah, there's always the list may not be on a sheet of paper, but there's always a list going, and anytime that I walk in here, even if it's just to bring a cup of coffee to somebody, there was always, hey, can you move this rack? Can you straighten this up? Can you tighten this thing?
Before you leave.
So as of right now, there's not a big redo of anything. It's just slowly making this place better, more efficient, and just honing in on what that aesthetic needs to be, and just trying to execute it.
Todd and Leslie, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. Anything else that you want to add, or maybe put a little bit of extra focus on that we already talked about before?
One of the things that I realized is, we're like most people. We don't have all the money in the world to spend. But one of the first things we did was hired Ohio Painting Company to come in here and paint. And the time that saved us was incredibly valuable, and the impact that a good quality company coming in and painting your walls and your trim, it just makes a huge difference, just a humongous bang for your buck. So I'm so glad that was one of the first things that we did, because it made a difference, and it makes a difference every single day in here.
When I know the guys had even said, we're talking about my business today, but like I really just want to sing the praises of Ohio Painting Company, because even when they were at our house too, they've got their crews in our home, both in our, in the shop and in our home with our valuables, with our children. And we were constantly so impressed at the character of the people they brought out. I mean, even our boys, especially when they were painting the exterior, that was a big project. They were around a lot. But our boys, loved some of their teammates and, seeing the same faces every day. They keep a clean site. It wasn't like you go out the next day and you're having to pick up your yard and the trash left behind. They just have a great team, and they do things with, I love them because they're friends, but really because they deliver such an incredible product and do things with excellence. And that is very important.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, you can see all types of work that the Ohio Painting Company does. Just search for the Ohio Painting Company on any social media platform. To you guys, let's talk social media on your end. How can people find you and get to know what you guys do? Yeah,
so we are on all social media platforms. Our website's shoppesmitten.com. On Instagram, it's shop.smitten. We're also on Facebook, TikTok, when I remember to use that. So anyone listening is probably not so much in boutique world, but if it's men with wives, girlfriends, moms, they can shop online.
There you
Get
go.
something for the ladies.
All right, well, that's perfect. Again, both of you, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been great to get to know you and a little bit more about what you guys do, and wonderful spot that you got here. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Ohio Painting Company podcast. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much. And as mentioned before, be sure and like and subscribe on YouTube and give us a review where you find us. We'll see you next time.